The next approach that we are going to explore to style our React components is styled components. With the help of this approach, we are going to build components focusing CSS styling. Styled components is a open source library. This is the official website. I'm going to mention these website details as well inside the GitHub repo. As you can see in the website, this approach is being used by all these companies that are scrolling at the bottom of the page. You can try to read more details by going into the documentation. In case if you are going to work in a real project which is going to use styled components, this is the best place to learn everything about the styled component. But from my side, I'm going to help you by teaching you the basics on how the style components they are going to work and on how to use them to style your React components. Inside this page, if you can go to the installation, there are instructions on how to install these library. Since we are using npm, let's take this npm install command. The same I'm going to execute inside my terminal. Before executing the command, let me stop the running application. Followed by, I'm going to clear the console and execute the command npm space install space styled hyphen component. As soon as I install this library, there'll be entries made inside the package.json. If you can open the package.json, you should be able to see the styled components library is installed. Once the installation is completed, we can go to footer.jsx. Here, I have plans to leverage styled components. To leverage the styled components, we need to write an import statement. Let me type import styled from styled hyphen components. From this styled components library, I'm trying to import a styled object. This name can be anything. Instead of styled, you can give some other name as well. But styled is the most commonly used name. Using this styled, I'm going to define a custom React component. Just above my footer component, I'm going to type constant h1. h1 is the component name. Followed by, I'm going to invoke the styled object. If I press dot, you should be able to see inside this object, all the HTML elements are available like anchor, div, similarly h1. So all these HTML elements, they are going to be available. Since I'm looking for an option to style my h1 element, I need to make sure I'm invoking these .h1. Followed by, you need to mention backticks. Inside these backticks only, you need to write all your styling related logic. Please make sure there should not be any space or dot after the h1. Straight away, you need to start the backticks. If you press enter between the backticks, you will get some space. In between these space, you can develop any amount of CSS code. We discussed about what are these backticks already in the previous lecture. These are the string literals available in the JavaScript. Using these string literals, we can write any amount of text between them without worrying about creating next lines with the help of /n. For my h1 tag text, I want to have a color. That's why I'm trying to use color here. Let me go to footer.module.css. Here I have a color. Let me copy this color and mention the same here. Followed by the next CSS style that I want to apply is text align. Here you need to write everything using plain CSS syntax. I want the text to be centered. That's why I'll mention the value as center. With this, we have created an h1 component. Any place where we try to use this h1 component, it is going to automatically get these stylings. Let me show you what I mean. Here we have some h1 related code. Let me comment all these logic. Followed by, I'm going to invoke the h1 component that I have created in the top. Let me type capital H1. We need to make sure there is a opening brace and closing brace. In between these h1, I can pass the text that I want to display with the help of HTML h1 tag. So this is the text that I want to display. Here, maybe this time instead of demo of global CSS scope, I'll just mention demo of styled components from footer. Let me save these changes. Now we need to make sure we are starting our application. Let me run the command npm run dev. Once the application is started, inside the browser, you should be able to see our heading is created, which is demo of styled components from footer. This styling we are getting from the styled component that we have created. Let me open the console and try to see what code we have. Just above the footer, there is a h1 tag. It has some random CSS class name. And this CSS class, which is ending with the DJOA, here we have, it has all the attributes and values that we have defined. Once you have developed the component, you can use a component at any number of places. As of now, this h1 component, which I have developed with the help of styled component, I'm trying to restrict only to the footer.jsx because I have not mentioned any export statement here, which confirms that I want to use this h1 component within this file alone. But if needed, you can build the component in a separate file and you can try to export it. And inside your project, in all the places where you want to use that specific component, you can reuse based upon your business requirements. Let me show you the demo around that very quickly. I'll try to create a new file under the component. The file name I'm going to mention easybutton.js because inside this file, I'm only going to write normal JavaScript code. That's why I'm trying to mention the extension .js. Inside this file, first we need to make sure we are importing the styled component. Let me copy this and paste it here. Followed by, I'm going to create a component with the name easybutton. After giving the name to the component with the help of styled object, this time, since I'm looking to style a button, I need to invoke the button available against the style object. Next, as usual, you need to mention backticks. Let me press enter, and in between these backticks, we need to write our styling code. Before I write some styling code, let me mention export default easy button. From this file, I'm trying to export this component. Next, I'm going to paste a few lines of CSS style in between these backtick symbols. You can get this styling from GitHub repo. Basically, I'm trying to create a button with this styling. It is going to have this background color and the text color is going to be white. It is going to have this padding, border radius, cursor, display, and margin. Let me save these changes. As a next step, I'll go to the footer.jsx. What I'll do here is just before h1, I'll try to create a button with the help of easy button component that we have created. First, we need to make sure we are importing the easy button component. Once it is imported, we can straight away try to use the same here. Once you have mentioned these component details, you can mention what text your button should have. Let me mention the button value as submit. And with that, if I save the file and go to the UI, you will see a beautiful button submit inside my footer. The same easy button I can also use inside the other components as well. For example, I can go to home.jsx and I can try to have the same import statement. And here, after mentioning the import statement, just after the h1, I'll try to invoke easy button component. This time instead of submit, I'll just mention home button. Inside the browser, I'm getting an compilation error. Here, instead of 2 dots, we should have only a single dot. Now, if you go to the top of the page, you're going to have a button. This way, we can build any styled component that can be leveraged at any place inside your project. One of the good advantages that you're going to get with this approach is you are building a styled component which is always going to have its own style, and the same can be reused at multiple places. In future, if you want to change the background color, the change will be only inside a single file. I hope you got some clarity on how to use styled components. Let's continue exploring about the styled components in the next lecture as well.